Hello. It is Writing Wednesday, and I have a brand new phone. I had downloaded something that had broken my phone. Evidently, Mercury retrograde is in high gear. Everybody I know is having car trouble and computer trouble, and so I got it in the phone. But we're back from New York, and it's so it's spring, and a lot of people are beginning their to go on tour. A lot of spring releases and first-time writers. I'm seeing it all over Facebook. What do I do? I'm hitting the road for the first time, and what should I be thinking about? First of all, congratulations if you're touring, and if you're not touring, kind of interested in a look at the writer's life. This is a high anxiety period when you go out on tour. And it's also the time for book festivals. A lot of people are going to be traveling for that. Um, Maybe you're just going to be going up to AWP in Portland at the end of the month. Um, so travel tips, writers who travel are wonderful sources. And so it's not just my tips, but these are going to be tips from all kinds of people. Everybody has their own personality. Some people are going to be more, people are going to have different reactions to questions they're going to be asked at readings. And anyway, so a writer had asked her, large group of writer acquaintances, Michelle Philgate, who has a new book coming out, What My Mother and I Don't Talk About, asked for advice on her Facebook page. So, hey, Linda. So, everybody chimed in, including yours truly. But people are very interested, travel information, first of all. How do you stay healthy on the road? Everybody has their view on this. My basic advice is always Purell. You're going to shake a lot of hands at the first sight of sore throat. Gargle with Listerine for a full minute. That got me through a 6-week tour. Gargling with Listerine. I put Bach's Rescue Remedy. It's a little herbal flower remedy. You put some drops in a bottle of water, and you carry that and drink it all day. When I'm on tour, I don't drink because I need every scrap of energy that I have. It's not recreation time for me. It's pedal to the metal. And I need to be able to sleep well. I need to be able to control my energy level. I don't normally drink coffee especially if it's a long tour, because I need to be able to sleep whenever it's possible to sleep. If I'm drinking coffee and I have a chance to sleep for an hour and I'm all caffeinated, I'm not going to be able to use it. So I usually use a rooibos tea, which is kind of coffee-ish, but will allow me to sleep when I need to sleep. I always take the aisle seat on the plane so I can get up and walk around. Meditate if you have a meditation practice. I mean, it's stupid to try to start anything when you are on the road, but if you have a meditation practice, by all means, meditate for 10 minutes, anything that keeps you calm. Some people take Jane let's see, Siabatari, the book critic, says she travels with yoga apparatus and uses a strap around the luggage to do stretches in the hotel room. I love that. Some people work out. I don't work out because you have to carry other shoes and all. Going for a walk is good. Just whatever it is that makes you feel good. Stretching in the room is good. I do Tai Chi, so I can do some Qigong stretches or something in the room. But a long tour, if you get on that treadmill and that makes you feel alive. I've met some other writers, and I met Diana Nyad in a hotel gym. This incredible, I mean, like I'm on the treadmill listening to some book on tape, and she is like going at it. It's like, wow, who the hell is that? And it turned out she was on tour. I've met other writers on tour. I was on a train coming from New York to Los Angeles. I wanted to see what that would be like in the 20s. They didn't fly. They took the train coast to coast, and I was at those tables with strangers, you know, at a meal, and this guy was talking, and I was undercover. I was in, you know, in my character role. But this guy was talking, and I went, oh my God, he's on book tour. And I met Da Chen, another writer, it was right after 9/11. He didn't want to fly. And he got the publisher to pay for train travel, which was awesome. Train travel would be amazing, but it sure is a lot of time. Airplane, I like to get to the airport early. I stress otherwise, and it's all about decreasing stress. So I'd rather get to the airport early, read, write. When you're on tour, you often have to get up very early in the morning and get onto the plane, get to the next city, and then everything kind of takes over from there. And there's a machinery. So all you have to do is get up, I shower the night before. So when I get up at 5:30, I don't have to get up at 5. I shower the night before, get to bed early. I don't drink. Some people like to go out with their friends after a reading, but man, if you're in a long tour and you start partying at night, I hope your energy is better than mine. I'm somebody who, I really have to watch it. I'll get sick. I'll get depressed. I try to be very gentle with myself. One of the writers had a very good piece of advice for Michelle Filgate, and I believe in this altogether, is when you're on a big tour, you get to the point where you do not know where you are. I mean, you can see why the rock bands go, hello, Portland. Is it Portland? You know, waiting to hear. It's like, wow, I don't know where I am. It is the airport, the car. It used to be an escort. Now you just get a lift, probably. Hotels all look the same. You know, if you go and connect with the bookstore is often the most unique thing about your tour. But another thing you can do is you can ask at the hotel, or you can ask anywhere, you know, what is there to eat here? Like, what do they eat that's not found anywhere else? And they'll usually say, oh, you don't want to eat that. And that's the one where you say, yeah, I do. And you'll remember that when you're on tour. You'll remember, you know, fried ravioli, or what is it, baked ravioli in St. Louis, and three-way chili in Cincinnati. I mean, you'll remember the food. No, I will. Somebody said, go take a hike, go do something, go to the museum, do something that is uniquely to that place, but always watching your energy level, because if I'm trying to squeeze touristic activities into something that's already pretty stressful, for me, I'd rather go back to the hotel and take a nap. Eat this chicken Caesar salad, you know, watch eating like weird squid or raw hamburger, you know, anything that's going to make you sick, because you'll be paying for it for days. Carolyn Levitt said, if you have to know your limits, if you have a talk, a dinner, and a party, you might want to think about leaving the party early, or skipping the dinner and doing the party. You know, I find taking audiobooks is super good, because sometimes when you're really worked up, just having that kind of drony sound you can get some extra sleep. I'm always looking for extra sleep And it's very companionable because you're sitting there in a motel room by yourself. And I often will Facebook people in the middle of the night if I know that there are writers on their tour. It's interesting to see who's touring the same time you're touring, and definitely like talk to them while you're on the road, because they're also in some motel in the middle of nowhere in a car park, and near the airport, and they don't know where they, and it's this really interesting disembodied conversation that I've had. I remember I was on the road with Paint It Black, and Mark Childress was on the road as well with, was it One Mississippi, maybe? And we just had these long conversations that were open because it was on Facebook and everybody could join in. But that was funny, and it really felt good to know that somebody else was on the road. A friend of Michelle's said that if you're doing your own booking and don't know the town, check out the safety level of the motel. Oh, yeah. If you have a tour, usually your publisher books the rooms, but more and more people are deciding, I'm, just going to take matters into my own hands and do my own tour. Then you definitely want to, if you get a bookstore tour, you can ask the bookstore, where would an author who isn't having their ticket paid by the publisher, where would they stay? Some people put their own tours together and stay with, they'll do a book club tour. They'll just come, and if you can get 30 people, I'll come out, I'll sleep on your couch, and I'll talk to your book club. That's an interesting one. For me, it's shepherding. It's shepherding my energy level. But Benjamin Piercy, who is a pretty solid guy, he likes to find one cool thing to see separate from all the book stuff. A hike in Griffith Park, a visit to the Weightlifting Hall of Fame, a ghost tour of New Orleans. I mean, that's, if you have more than one day, that kind of thing is beautiful. But man, if you're one day, it's a trade-off, to keep yourself alive emotionally and physically. Definitely hydrate like mad. The chicken Caesar salad is usually a pretty good thing from room service. Eat some protein in the morning instead of pancakes. Watch the energy level. Here's another one. My first book tour, I was just scared shitless. I'd never spoken in front of an audience ever, didn't. With White Oleander, my cross the street neighbor is a crystal healer, and she said she would make a necklace for me. And I said, okay, we'll make a necklace where everyone will love me. And she said, no, I won't make you a necklace that everyone will love you, but I will make you a necklace where you will love them. And if I can recommend anything to you as a, if you're touring for the first time or speaking in front of, getting panels or whatever for the first time, that was the best advice I ever got. Is, it's not, do they love you? Are they judging you? Are you meeting expectations? How do I look in this outfit? But do you love them? Are you looking out at them with love rather than terror? It's like, these are people, they come here not to judge you. They come to be entertained, mostly. So it's like you are inviting them into your world. You are welcoming them into your living room. The more welcome they feel, the more you're going to feel really comfortable with them, and more than comfortable, you're going to care about them. You're going to be thinking about them. You're going to make sure that they have a good time and feel comfortable. So I would definitely say yes. to that. I have a lot of little bags that I keep specific things in. So, for instance, if I have, like, I have this bag, peripherals all go in here, all the cords, everything, and you always do a sweep of your hotel room before you leave, no matter, you think you have everything, but you're going to watch those cords, watch the cords. You're going to leave the cords, you're going to leave the hats and gloves. And then if you're in a busy season, if you're having, you know, a lot of stuff going on, make sure that you take, some time, that you just chill and you don't see a lot of people and spend time with your family and that kind of thing. Then there's the question of the reading. Some people like to read, some people don't like to read. Some people would rather just shoot themselves rather than go out on tour. And I understand that, but it's like, you went to all this trouble to have that baby, it's like, don't expose them on a rock, give them a good start in life. I like to travel, but many people don't. It's part of the deal. My mantra is, I am just a pound of tomatoes on the conveyor belt of life. I'm not in control of this. If you're a controlling person, you're going to waste so much energy trying to make sure everything is perfect. Do not do that, especially if the publisher is sending you out. Make sure you bring the phone numbers emergency phone numbers with you, people you can call from your publisher. I'm here stuck in Oklahoma City, and I'm supposed to get to Dallas, but there's a huge storm. I'm going to miss that signing. What should I do? You need someone else to make that decision. You don't want to. You want to relieve yourself of responsibility as much as you can. Imagine you're Mick Jagger on tour. You look better than Mick. But you want other people to make most of the decisions, because you're the performer. You're going to go on and you're going to give it your all. Somebody else, if you can get somebody else to make all these decisions, please do. Clothing, I have not ever lost luggage. I tend not to like to carry on because, and I'm in the minority, believe me. I'm in the minority. But I don't like to carry on because the anxiety that I spend in that airport, will I be able to get into the overhead, blah, 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 is not worth knowing that I'll have everything with me. It's like, if I lose my clothes, I don't care. I can't stand that extra anxiety waiting. Will there be room in the overhead? But most people dress very simply. There's a reason writers wear scarves. It's because we wear black and then we put a scarf on. You have the shoes you wear. Figure you're going to, for me, if they lose my luggage, I'm always dressed presentably enough that I can wear what I'm wearing on the plane to everything I need to go to. So I don't wear jeans. I don't wear, sweats or anything like that on the plane. Always, like a stretchy pair of black pants, some kind of a decent top, carry a coat, decent, comfortable and decent looking shoes. So that, I don't have to worry about it. Carry your medication on you in case they do lose your luggage. But then there's the substance of the tour. We're just talking about peripherals. Always be nice to everybody in the airport, to your, the desk people. Your things are going to be canceled. You're going to be in a non-reclining seat. All that stuff is going to happen. And the more even-tempered you can be about it, the more pleasant you can be. People will help you. If you're a jerk, that karma comes back. If I've known difficult people, and if anybody's flight is canceled, it's their flight. If anybody has problems, it's going to be them. So be pleasant. Don't add to the agony of the world. Try to smooth that along. That's a spiritual exercise. Then there's the events. And that's a different thing. Now, there was some there's a very wide range of opinion about inappropriate questions. People will ask you questions about your personal life, not only memoirists. I mean, God, if you're a memoirist, I just admire you so much. But everybody is asked personal questions. Questions are asked of women that they wouldn't be asked of men. Questions are asked of people of color that wouldn't be asked of Anglo people. Just outrageous questions are asked. Stupid questions are asked. People ask questions you can't even understand what the hell they're asking. It's more apple polishy kind of questions. They just want to look wonderful. And Todd Goldberg just says, if you're going to ask a fuckwad question, just don't. Somebody else said, if you feel yourself rising godlike above the audience and begin to don't ask that question. But that's for the audience. That's not for you. As a writer, there's a difference of opinion. Some people who have a lot of energy, good friends of mine, will confront that person. Say, well, why are you asking me this? Would you ask somebody else that same question? That is that's an offensive question. And they'll call them out. That's not me. I go on energy saving mode. I don't want to get into it with these people. I don't want to educate them. So what I do is I try to answer something that isn't like horribly offensive. If it's mildly offensive, I'll tame it a bit and answer it in a very short way and get on with it. But you get the question it's a long rambling thing, and I have been in panels where people have made fun of a question. Is there a question in there somewhere? That does not make you look very good. I'll tell you, that's what people remember, is that you were an asshole. It's much better to treat those questions as it's a puzzle. You try to figure out what it is they're really asking. When they ask you, do you write with a computer? They don't ask that question anymore. Used to be, do you write with a computer, or do you write with a pen and paper? They don't really want to know that. They're trying to ask a question about process. How do you come to your work? Do you write in drafts? That kind of question. So see if you can intuit the question behind the question. I think that that's much kinder than going, what the hell do you mean by that? And especially if you are on a panel. I was on an LA Festival of Books. I went to a panel, LA Festival of Books, a writer that I was very interested in hearing from. And he threw every question back at the moderator. What do you mean by, that doesn't really interest me, what do you mean by that? He wouldn't answer anything. And it was like, why are you even here wasting our time? And I've learned recently that he has really disgraced himself in his being a jerk recently. And that kind of made me feel good that other people saw that, because they were really excusing him. And I was like, phew, glad I wasn't his moderator. So some people will confront that. Some people will let it slide. I tend to let it slide. Some people will say, well, why are you asking me that question? I don't want to know why they're asking me that question. I have a pretty good idea why. So if you don't want to answer it, just laugh, say something silly, blow it off. And then ask a different question, and get somebody else's question. Rebecca Mackay, who I'm going to be with at the LA Festival of Books her new book, The Great Believer, says answer the question you wish they'd ask. That's the A student approach. You know, you get an assignment, you're not thrilled with the assignment, but you want to write something really good. You just answer a slightly different question. You rephrase it. A more interesting question would be blah blah blah, and then you answer that question. That's always an excellent way to go. But you want to do it in a way that doesn't make you seem insane. Like, that's not what she asked. You recognize the question, have a little think about it maybe, and then segue into what's a more interesting aspect of it. What's the strangest or most interesting thing that's happened to you on tour? Oh boy. I met a woman showed up, and she said, you don't remember me, do you, Janet? And I'm like, no, I don't remember you at all. And it turned out that she was a woman. She lived on my block when I grew up as a kid, and she was in a part of a very large family, and we had several really large families on my block. And they all used to play together, and I had this idea that I was, this sort of, melancholy, romantic person. I was an outcast and nobody liked me, and I would stay in and read Poe. And live in my imaginary world. This is what I did. And so I had this mythology that I was an outcast. I kind of had my whole life designed around that. And this woman said, why didn't you ever play with us? We had to play with this horrible blah, blah, blah family down the street. Each of them with like 9 kids. Why, we wanted you to play with us. I still remember that story you told us about the fox and the, blah, blah, blah. And I realized that I had completely made up this idea of myself as an outcast, that nobody wanted to play with me and stuff. I just didn't explore the actuality of it. I just assumed that I was not included. So that was the most interesting thing that ever happened to me on book tour. Just blew me away. Some people take drugs to cut anxiety. If you have used them, that makes, then go ahead. Yeah. Don't do anything for the first time while you're on tour. You don't want to sleep through your gig or say something wild. I do not I don't remember what I was going to say. Yes, I take my laptop with me. One of Michelle's friends said, one of my goals in life is to become, this is a quote from Rebecca Solnit. One of my goals in life is to become truly rabbinical, to answer closed questions with open questions, to have an internal authority, to be a good gatekeeper when intruders approach, and to at least remember to ask, why are you asking that? Think that question. That's my advice, is think that question. Why are you asking that? Why is this person asking that? What do they really want? Sometimes they just want to be acknowledged that they read your book. And it's like, wow, so glad you enjoyed it. Or, I'm sorry you had trouble with that portion. And out of there. Here's an advice. Do interviews in blocks. That's when you're getting a lot of interviews. Do in blocks so they don't take up the whole day, so you don't spend the day waiting to answer them. That's a really good question. Don't read Amazon reviews. don't read any reviews. I don't read any reviews. When my book comes out, I wait and let somebody else read my reviews. And if they're good, tell me. And if they're not good, don't tell me, because I can't do anything about it at that point. But I still have to go out on tour. I remember a very famous writer who I really admire came out with a book that got terrible reviews. Terrible. And I felt so sorry for him because he still had that big tour. He still had to tour that book. And I saw him read from it, and he said nothing about the reviews. He, especially one real stinker in the New York Times, said nothing about the reviews. He didn't acknowledge them. He was as gracious with that audience as if he had just won a prize for that book. And I thought, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. So for me, I eventually do read the bad reviews, but not, well, it's breaking, because you need the confidence that you have for the task ahead. So it's always about preserving your good spirits, your high spirits, because whatever the reviews say, there will be people who will love that book. And the idea is to give the book its best chance. So reading Amazon reviews, if you do it, eventually people do it. And what I do with the bad reviews is I look and see what else they reviewed. It's like they gave my book a 1 star, but what did they give 5 stars to? A blender, a Buddha comfy perch for birds. It puts it into perspective. Travelogue, different kind of author tour. Travelogue. No, I can't. These are just general, always great general advice. Let's see what else they asked. Bubble baths, face masks. Do not bleach your eyebrows just before the book tour. Do not cut your hair just before the book tour. Do not color it just before the tour, unless you always color it. Don't do anything differently. I remember when Painted Black was published in Europe, or was it White Oleander? Anyway, I was going to Europe, and I cut my hair. I'm a long hair girl, and I cut it and shagged it, and it was just like, why did I do that? Never do that. Don't wear clothes, brand new clothes that you're not used to. Wear clothes that you feel you're like yourself in. Let's say, bring Band-Aids, bring Purell, the Listerine, and then something that I noticed, I used to write for American Film Magazine and work for them. I was the managing editor. And when I interviewed like great big stars, I'm interviewing Shirley MacLaine, I'm interviewing Julia Roberts, I'm interviewing Burt Lancaster, John Cage. I can just remember Nick Cage, so many people. And what I noticed was how generous they were. They would answer a question that I knew that they had been asked 5,000 times, thousands of times. And they would answer and be as present with me as if they had been asked that question the first time. And I always remembered that. Never, if a journalist asks you, where do you get your ideas, and you just want to put a bullet through your head, don't. this is the first time that person has ever asked that question. So just be present. It's a spiritual exercise. How present can you be with another human being? And, and answer as, don't kill yourself on a question that nobody's thought about. But, to be present, human to human. When you do television, if you're lucky enough to do television, know that the person who's interviewing you on a news, like on a general talkie show, will not have read your book. And do not be angry about that. You are getting to do television. Do not be a stinker. You get 3 minutes. Have them prepared. Know your 3 things that you can say in 3 minutes. Don't waste too much time, because it'll be over in a heartbeat. They haven't read your book. They'll know one thing about you. Make sure you have that elevator pitch. How would you describe your book? If somebody has said something really fun about your book, get your friends, the people who've read it, to give you a short, little thing you can say. How do you describe the Revolution of Marina M? It's an 800-page epic of the Russian Revolution. My husband said, oh, it's a girl's own Dr. Zhivago. And where I wouldn't necessarily want to see that on the back of a book cover, a book that I've worked on for 10 years, it is a very easy, quick and kind of funny way to describe the book. Readings. Anybody who, does, if you are asked to do readings, God, what do I read? What do I read? Try to settle into a piece of your book that that goes over. And if you're just starting out, sex or humor works really well. Read it so often, rehearse it, practice it so often that you can look up and look at the audience while you're reading it. So, you'll go through it and you might excerpt little pieces of it that, they'll know if they read it that that's not the way it's written. But if you have little pieces of it, that will be very helpful. So you stay in the time limit. When you get a feeling that everybody clapped and the feeling that, that's good, that's it. If we don't know any better, we keep reading. Don't keep reading. When you hear that sound like you've brought it home, that's where you stop. That's where you say thank you. And you'll feel it. So, are there any other questions that I can answer for you? Something that's very interesting that my friend Naomi Munaweera started doing at readings. She has a book, What Lies Between Us, and the one before that is Island of a Thousand Mirrors. And she is really interested in making sure that people of color, especially women of color, have a chance to speak in these readings, that they are able to ask their questions, and that their questions are not only welcomed, but she wants to encourage that space, clear space for people to ask questions. And she will say, if there are enough women of color in the audience that they don't feel like they're on the spot, she'll say, I'd like questions from women of color first. And I think that is so powerful. I want to start seeing that in readings. I've noticed I went to a reading, very, real feminist book, but the first question was a guy. The women all just sat there and waited for someone else to start. I mean, that's something that women have to address, and it's something that we as authors could help, maybe by saying, can the first question be from a woman? And then if you have women in the audience, and you probably will, wait until somebody comes forward, and then, then that'll lift off. Just that, I thought that was so brilliant as something you could do. So any other questions about traveling, touring? It's always cold on the plane. Bring a pashmina. Don't put your coat in the overhead. Keep it on your lap. It's always cold. I bring surgical masks. Like usually we see in Asia, they don't think anything of it. But in America, we think that's kind of weird. But if you are on tour and you have that guy coughing and sneezing next to you on the flight, and he says, "Oh, I just have allergies." It's like, pff, he does not have allergies. He has a cold. And I will take that surgical mask off and say, "Oh, I'm going to take a nap now. You'll see me put this on. Would you like one?" They never take it because I always carry more than one. And then I put that on and I pretend to sleep, but at least I'm not breathing his cold. I get really paranoid about catching cold, being sick while I'm traveling. What are some good ways to get people to come to readings? Well, the best thing to do is to ask somebody if you know somebody who lives in that town, ask them to have a party for you after the reading. And then their friends are, especially if they're well connected, their friends don't want to go to the party without going to the reading, and that you'll get a turnout that way. I think, publishers normally don't send you to a town where you don't know anybody. They won't send you. They'll send you to a town that you know people. So if you have those people who are involved with the church, they're involved with the synagogue, their son just got married and they've got that list. Those are the people. Try to get them to have a party for you, and that'll bend, kind of twist their arm a little bit. What else? Look up, that was another suggestion from one of Michelle Philgate's friends, is to contact people ahead of time who live in that town. Tell them that you're going to be there. See if you can meet, for a drink afterwards, even though it's not going to be a drink. Porachista Kapoor said, recommended having a friend or a student meet you before or after the reading in a strange town, so you don't feel like you're going into it alone. Connect with writers in that town. That's really good advice. I like that. Anything else about this weird world of panels and readings and whatnot? I'm going to be at AWP. If anybody's going to AWP, that's a rat fuck. Sorry, but it really is. There's a lot going on. I've never seen anxiety like that. It's like the bar exam. Definitely find out of which of your friends are going to be there. Get their phone numbers. Hook up with people. Don't feel like you have to go to everything. If you go to 2 interesting things a day, you've paid your rent. AWP, it's Associated Writing Programs, and it's 30,000 writers and writing teachers converge on some convention center and network and go to panels and be on panels and think about teaching, and it's really interesting. It's really interesting, but it's an emotional drain. I try to also see people I know in the town who are not, part of the train. It's very much fun, and it's a different city. I shouldn't, I'm going, so obviously if I didn't like it, I wouldn't go, but it does stimulate one's anxieties. No, it's in Portland this year. Um, so what else? Anyway, so in closing, it was, you know, definitely drink water whenever you can and never turn down the chance to go to the bathroom. Uh, do you get more established fans show up at reading or make new ones? Uh, both. When you first turn out a book, most of the people who come to readings are going to be people you know and their friends. But know this, when you go to a reading, when you go to an event and there's nobody there, and that happens to touring authors all the time, you go and there's nobody. The bookstore hasn't been able to get advanced people. You go into, you know, it's Yom Kippur, you just don't know. There's no one there. Do not throw a fit. It is part of the book tour is an opportunity to do press, that something is happening, so you can do press. I'm on tour. The bookstore, if they like you, will continue to sell your book for months after you leave. If you were a jerk because only 2 people showed up and you had a little hissy fit, that is what the bookstore will remember, and they will not be hand selling your book. They'll just remember that you were a jerk. So even if there are 2 people, treat those people. They showed up for you. You know, treat those people well. And the bookstore will remember that you were really a mensch. How about the LA Times Festival of Books? We're going. I'm going to that one. I've got a Saturday panel with Lydia Fitzgerald and Rebecca Mackay. And David Francis is moderating. It's going to be amazing. I love the LA Times Festival of Books. I go every year, except when my book is, if I'm having trouble with a book, and it's been years and I just feel like a single-celled animal, sometimes I won't go to the book festival because I can't stand to see all those writers who finish their books. But then I get over it and I'll go the next year, and finally I'll have a book. So I definitely go to the book festivals. I remember when I was beginning to write, when I was a younger writer, and sometimes I would just go and I would be so jealous of all of them that I wouldn't even be able to go into the panels. I would just sit on the lawn with other writers that I knew, unpublished writers that I knew, and like kind of seethe. But it also whets your ambition to go and see writers that you admire. It fires you up in a way that few things do. Well, I look forward to seeing you. Come up and see me at AWP. If you see me, this is what I look like. And I'm very friendly, and I don't have any panels, so happy to talk to you. And we'll see you at the LA Festival of Books if you're in LA. I've got a Saturday at 3 o'clock, which is going to be an amazing panel. Get your tickets early. They're free, but you have to get tickets. And we'll see you at the airport. Okay. All righty. Thank you, and good writing.